so I have obliged on doing meeting accessibility. Pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Proclamation 20-25, the city is unable to provide an in-person location for the public to listen to the virtual city council meetings this evening. Meetings are still accessible to the public, and public comment is able to be submitted. To view live, you can watch on the city's website, you can watch on the city's YouTube channel or Comcast Channel 21 within Sammamish. To view later, you can watch it on the website, on our YouTube channel, and Comcast Channel 21 within Sammamish does reruns of our meeting. Mr. Sugg, can you call roll, or if Lita's available, can you call roll?
I can call roll. It's City Clerk. Mayor Karen Moran.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Christy Malchow.
Present.
Councilmember Ken Gamblin.
Present.
Councilmember Jason Ritchie.
Here.
Councilmember Chris Ross.
Present.
Councilmember Pamela Stewart. Councilmember Kent Treen.
Present.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Senator, we do have a quorum. Does anyone know if Councilmember Stewart was planning to attend?
I can text her, but I don't think I'm allowed to. So, but no, I don't know. I would expect she was. I don't know. I haven't heard from her. Has anybody else heard from her?
I've not heard anything.
Well, hopefully she'll pop on here shortly then. Okay. Councilmember Ritchie, would you lead the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Ritchie. I would look for a motion for approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Welcome, Councilmember Stewart. Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, by a vote of 7-0, the agenda is now approved. First up, we do have an executive session. This is to review the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.1111G and litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.1111I. We're expecting, it looks like, about 40 minutes. Is that correct?
Really?
That's what it says for public comments listed at 7:05. Is that?
Can't we shorten that up a bit, folks?
We can. That's why I'm asking if that's accurate. Maybe our city attorney can weigh in.
Christy, this is City Attorney Lisa Marshall, and I was unaware that the time for exec session was listed at 40 minutes. I expect that was just out of an abundance of caution. I certainly think we can cover the topics we need to discuss in less muted.
How much time do you think we need?
No more than 30.
Okay, so let's say 30 minutes will be back for public comment at that time. So, everybody pop on over.
This is Dave. Are you going to do the legal first, perhaps? I'll jump on, and then I'll jump off when you do the evaluation.
We need to get off of this link and then go into executive session. So,
yeah, that works, Dave. Lisa Marshall,
right.
Again, we can do the litigation first.
All right, thank you.
Okay, perfect. We'll see you guys over there.
We will be extending executive session for 10 minutes. Again, we will be extending executive session for 10 minutes.
Yep, okay. I think we've got everybody now. Okay, so next on our agenda is public comment. Yeah, let's see. Yep, public comment. So pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Proclamation 20-25, the city is unable to provide an in-person location for the public meeting. Meetings are still accessible. I think I read that already. Lita or Mike, is there anyone in the queue to speak?
Yes, I have one caller that is waiting. I just need to access that.
Okay.
Caller number 1. I will mute caller in the orders that they appear. There seems to be just one caller. When it's your turn to speak, you will hear an automated voice saying unmuted, and then you will have 3 minutes to provide public comment. I will now unmute the first caller.
City Council. Good evening, City Council. Season's greetings. Paul Stickney, Sammamish. My comments are about finding cohesive, positive, inspiring community growth aims first, then work on the EIS, comp plan, zoning, development, regulations, plans, and the programs. My request is to either pause the EIS to affirm growth aims, make changes to the EIS scopes after doing that, or add another alternative to the EIS scope, optimizing land uses. I feel it's time for the city to do an introspective intervention regarding internal growth aims. From 1999 to 2017, the aims in Sammamish were to minimize and mitigate housing growth. Since 2018, the aims have been more along the lines of very low housing growth, and there is a significant and growing groundswell for optimal housing growth. But a crucial reason the city must do the intervention on itself, in my opinion, is that these three growth ideologies have, 1, never been sufficiently informed, 2, vast consequences have never been contrasted with each other, and 3, wholly informed public sentiments have never been known. Time to rectify these. In support of this either-or ask, I suggest you take a look at the 3 PDFs I attached with my written email this afternoon, and the overall goal is to sustainably enhance livability, lifestyles, and legacies in Sammamish. Optimize land use for unifying, inspiring growth results that alleviate long-standing imbalances, enable additional holistic, sustainable enrichments, and ensure appropriate benefits. Simply put, inform, alter, and improve. And I came across a quote from, John F. Kennedy back in 1962 that I like a lot. He said, "We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. I assert that attaining," now I'm changing to me, "I assert that attaining cohesive growth aims may be hard, but it's a challenge we can accomplish to holistically enrich and sustain our community. Happy holidays to you all. Have a great Christmas."
Thank you. Okay, and I assume there's no one else. There was just one caller, is that correct?
Sorry, that is correct. There's only one caller tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Lita. Okay, so new businesses this evening. We have an ordinance repealing subsection 14A.10.050 of the Sammamish Municipal Code and amending subsection 14A.10.050 of the Sammamish Municipal Code. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, so we're going to just have, if I've got Mike there, I don't have the code there, but perhaps Lisa can just read the agenda bill. Unless Mike is there with it.
No, I'd be happy to address this agenda bill, Mr. City Manager. The ordinance before you this evening legislatively repeals Sammamish Municipal Code 14A.10.0502 and amend certain sections of 0503 to remove references to V over C as a methodology for concurrency. The reason we're asking you to take action this evening on this ordinance is that during the December 17th, 2020 compliance hearing in the gerund matter, the board expressed the possibility that the city would need to take legislative action to repeal this section, in addition to adding the code reviser's note that is currently in your code. So adopting this ordinance will completely repeal 050 subsection 2, in addition the figure that appears in that subsection, and will amend 050 sub 3 to remove references to V over C. Happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. Normally when we have a amended code, we normally get to see like the whole code, because I'm assuming that there's going to have to be a whole renumbering that also has to take place if we're taking out an entire subsection.
The code reviser will do that.
Okay, so because we don't really get to see exactly what's being removed in this ordinance. And there's no link to it in the packet or for anyone to see. So it just seemed like it would be helpful to see everything that was being removed. And then I guess the other question is, if we're removing that, is the note going to be removed as well then?
We will work with the code reviser to make sure that it reads seamlessly. And if it means removing the note to do that, the code reviser and working with the city attorney's office will make that happen.
Who's the code reviser? I don't know that term.
Code publishing?
Sorry, still don't know what you're talking about. Normally we would see the whole sort of redlined version, and that's what we would vote on.
Councilmember Stewart, if it helps, I can read subsection 2 so you know what's being repealed specifically.
No, I'm just curious because it just came to us in a very different format, because normally, again, we would get the whole thing redlined, and that's what we would have before us, and we'd see that. And then we'd know if the note was being removed or not being removed before we vote on it. Because I'm kind of not comfortable voting on something if I don't know exactly what it's going to look like on the other side.
May I offer an amendment, please?
Well, we don't have a motion yet, so.
Make a motion.
Well, then I will make a motion that we adopt this code with the addition of the proposed redlined area in the final version. And to ask the city deputy mayor to read it out loud so it's in the record, and then that will be put into the finalized mayor to sign document, part of our legislation.
So it won't be in the actual code, it's just that's what will be in the record, is what you're suggesting?
We're trying to pass legislation here relative to something that is, Councilmember Stewart, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm trying to do is figure out a way to include the section that's being removed in our legislation. As the agenda bill stands now, it does not include the actual language that's being removed. Is that where you're going here? That's what I see.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So
and it's unclear if the note is going to be in it or not in it, so I'm not sure what we'd be voting on if that's going to be determined at a later date. That doesn't seem right. That should be something we're deciding here if we're taking a legislative action.
I think Lisa would have to answer the question relative to the note, but I can't imagine that the note would not be removed, because the note would be irrelevant without subsection 2 being still in the code.
That's kind of what I was getting at, but it doesn't state that it's removing that, and so I just wanted to get clear, which is why we typically get an entire redline version so we know exactly what's going to be there and not be there.
Lisa, could you answer this for us and then read to her, or do whatever she needs to have?
I have it written down too. I can read it as well, needed.
Right. If council members are unclear regarding the language being repealed by the ordinance, I'm sure the deputy mayor would be happy to read to you the repealed language. In addition, there is a statute, I believe it's 35A 13100 that allows the city to, after an ordinance is adopted, to correct scrivener's errors or awkward sentences that did not go to the substance of the ordinance. So that is something that we would rely upon in working with the code revisor's office to make sure the note, which is now rendered irrelevant, is removed. I don't believe a motion from you is necessary to do that.
Well, we need a motion to actually pass this ordinance, right?
Correct.
How about I read
So what
the
I'm trying to-
subsection? Is it okay if I read the subsection? That way council is completely clear, and that way it's also on the public record for anyone who's listening to hear what is being repealed.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Subsection 2 says, in conducting the concurrency test in accord with this chapter, the road corridor and segment level of service standards are volume to capacity ratio of up to and including 1.1 for corridors and 1.4 for segments, respectively, for the city's principal and minor arterials. The roadway standards shall be applied for the city's traffic models, AM and PM peak hours in each direction. The 2016 and 2024 corridor and segment capacities and level of service standards are shown in Figure 1. The capacity was calculated by modifying the Highway Capacity Manual 6th edition methodology as described in the Measuring Concurrency for Segments and Corridors, HCM 6th edition, modified memo dated November 16, 2018 by Kendra Breland and Bianca Popesco, Fair and Pierce, period. That is the end of it. There are the Figure 1, which is the charts, and council, if you can see, but I'm holding
They're actually showing it on the screen now, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Yep.
All of those charts are being repealed as well, as discussed over email.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
So
I would entertain a motion.
I made a motion but didn't get a second, but I'm curious. I'm sorry, I'm in the queue.
Oh, I don't see you, Jason. Go ahead.
Kent's ahead of me.
Okay. Kent, go ahead. Councilmember Tree.
All right, I make a motion that the council approve an ordinance repealing SMC 14A.10.050, parens 2, and amending the Sammamish Code 14A.10.050, parens 3. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll move on to discussion. Councilmember Tree, did you want to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Ritchie.
I believe it's important that we include the language of what we're actually deleting in our legislation because of the purpose of our legislation and the audience for our legislation. I think it's critical that we include what we are removing. While it's obvious to us what we're doing, I think it's important that we recognize who our audience is. So I would ask that I'd like to offer an amendment that we include the language as the deputy mayor just read in the actual ordinance that we are debating right now, period.
Is that an amendment? Did you just offer there?
I did offer an amendment.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, the amendment has been moved and seconded, so all discussion right now is relative to the amendment. Councilmember Ritchie, did you want to speak to your amendment?
I think I'm good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see anyone in the queue, so I'll speak to it real quick. I don't know that we normally have the language in the ordinance, but I appreciate the fact that it may not be readily apparent to the general public as to what we're repealing. So I'm looking to legal to what normally we would do, or if putting it in the minutes is sufficient. I just don't know that that's normally what we do in an ordinance, is put the red line version.
Well, if it would be helpful to council and to the citizens, I think we can attach to the ordinance a red line or strikeout version of the legislation. Certainly that's not hard to do, and if that's the council's choice, and direction, I'd be happy to provide that. The citation I want to correct that I mentioned earlier is actually 35A21010, and that's the section that allows us to make grammatical and scrivener's corrections afterward. But it is not difficult to create an attachment or some other version of this, which includes the strikeout language.
Okay. Yeah, if it's not, you know, a big deal for staff to put the strikeout language, I don't see any harm in the strikeout language being in the ordinance. All right, Councilmember Ritchie, who's in the queue again, but I want to go through and make sure there's anyone else that would like to speak first before we go around two. All right, Councilmember Ritchie.
I'm happy with what the deputy or the city attorney just said. That as long as the information, we have a specific audience here that we're working with. So our past precedent, I don't know if it's applicable here or not. In my mind, this is a very specific situation for a very specific audience, and I think it's really important that we be as specific as possible about what we're doing so that we are not leaving anything for ambiguity or any interpretation or anything like that. And so this is not a gotcha moment. This is nothing like that. If we can accomplish what the city attorney just suggested without a motion, I'll withdraw. But if we need a motion to do that, I just think it's critical that we put the information in there so that we're not leaving anything for guessing about the who, where, and why, given who we're talking to here. And I think that's critically important. I'm sorry for being verbose, but I think this is very important.
No, sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
If it would help move this discussion along, what we can do is I can simply create a version of the ordinance for execution by the mayor, the city clerk, and the city attorney, which will state that 14A 100502 is repealed in its entirety to read as follows, and then it will include a paragraph that's stricken. I don't think that's legally necessary, but if that's your direction, I'd be happy to take it.
Councilmember Ross? Chris, you're on mute.
That feels messy to me to do what you mentioned as an option. I think we can help with what Councilmember Ritchie's asking for by simply, when you complete the code revision, is to provide a supplemental document that's not part of the code, revised code, but it's a supplemental work copy of strikeouts that we can provide, or you can provide, that supports the final version of the revised code. I don't want to link something new where we start putting strikeouts in our code. It will quickly make our code very messy.
I don't think, that wasn't my understanding, but maybe Councilmember Ritchie can. I thought it was in the ordinance. The ordinance is
I apologize, Councilmember Ross. I'm certainly not trying to, put a whole bunch of strikeouts and red lines in our code. What I'm trying to do is to make sure that when this ordinance is essentially delivered to the Growth Management Hearings Board, that we are being very clear about what we are doing and what we're striking, that we are being responsive to their requests. That's all.
Understand, okay. But the city attorney led me to believe that she was offering a suggestion that's much different than that would actually have that strikeout included in the revised code. That's what I'm responding to.
Can you clarify, please?
Yeah, there's a number of ways to accomplish this. When you repeal a subsection in its entirety, and while city attorneys may do this differently, it's always been my practice to simply repeal the subsection in its entirety. Another way to accomplish the same result is to simply amend 15A 10050 and set forth the amended sections in their entirety, which would include the strikeout. I did not do that here because I wanted to use the word repeal in this ordinance to show the board that we were specifically repealing that subsection as they apparently wished that we had done. So that's the reason for the repeal of subsection 2 and the amendment of subsection 3 to read as stated in the ordinance. If council wishes to place the repealed language within the body of the ordinance, in my view, that would be a little bit nonsensical, because you'd be saying subsection 2 is hereby repealed to read as follows, and then it would be just a big paragraph of strikeouts.
Right. That's my messy comment is exactly what you just said. I think it would be nonsensical to do so. So, yes.
Okay, if you I'm sorry, this is Jason. I'm happy to withdraw. I'm happy to go with what the legal counsel suggests. I'm not trying to create a problem here. I will withdraw and work with the best advice that the city attorney will provide. I apologize for any confusion I've created. Thank you.
As the person who seconded that, as long as we can get the actual wording in the minutes so people can see it, I want there to be a public record of it, then I'm fine with that. So get the wording of subsection 2 with the strikeouts in the minutes that go out for the meeting. I'm fine with that. But it's concerning to me that we don't show it anywhere. We're just saying we're repealing something that no one knows what it is we've repealed. If you're playing along at home.
Okay, well, I don't see any more comments. The amendment was withdrawn, so now we're going to vote on the motion unless there's other discussion relative to the main motion. Okay, I don't see anybody jumping into the queue, so all those in favor, and again, well, let me repeat what the motion was that Councilmember Treen made, which was we are repealing subsection 14A.10.050 of the Sammamish Municipal Code and amending subsection 14A.10.050 of the Sammamish Municipal Code. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, vote 7-0. The motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Merry Christmas.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks all.